I just thought it would be useful for colleagues who have not been familiar with the journey that Public Health Scotland's currently on, to fill in some of the background to that and set out some of the direction we're going, how we're going to try and deal with some of the issues that have come up in the discussions this morning and in James's presentation there this afternoon. So, in terms of a definition, I think that one of the points that I took from what James said there about our ambition, which I'll come on to a wee bit more, is about common purpose. That's part of my definition of public health. It's where people in Scotland do well. It's not rocket science. So you can see some of the things that we've been trying to do. Establish the public health priorities. And one of the interesting things around that, and Marion Bain, who was one of the leading figures in that, in the review and in the development of the process, these are Scotland's public health priorities, not Public Health Scotland's priorities. So whilst I take your comments, James, about whole systems, maybe not a good way of describing something, but actually having everybody that needs to be in the room is actually something we can achieve in Scotland. And so I think that the delivery of the priorities is all our responsibility. All of our responsibility, as opposed to just saying, we put that into the box that's Public Health Scotland. One of the other key things there is, and it's come up as a theme a couple of times, how do we deal with something local and national? What does that actually mean? And I think about some of the other things that came out of the Christie Commission around health and social care integration. And I've been close to part of that around my experience, because for a number of years I was chair of the board of NHS Fife, and and I was vice chair of the Community Planning Partnership. I don't know where they were on your list, James. And I do agree that at that time, when you think about it, Fife Council is the third biggest council in Scotland. NHS Fife's not the third biggest health board in Scotland. So there was always an issue there about the nature of the relationship. And I think that one of the things that come up in the world of health and social care integration that comes up in this world of public health is around the idea of dual accountability. So that's what's different about Public Health Scotland. It's not just accountable to national government, it's accountable to local government. And so that national-local dilemma is actually something that we have to live with from day one. And I'll say a little bit more about that as I progress. The reasons for doing this, you can see in the map there that Scotland has the lowest life expectancy in Western Europe and in the UK. I suppose by definition all of those boundaries might change by the end of next month. But interesting in that, I was chatting to a colleague who was speaking this morning from Western Bartonshire, because I come originally from Clydebank, and I now live in North East Fife. And in doing so, I've added 3 years to my life. Because that's within Scotland, and I suppose if you took some of the leafy parts of our capital city and some of its peripheral housing estates, that difference will be even more stark. So that's the thing we have the common purpose to tackle. You can see there about healthy life expectancy, and Marion has lived with these statistics. You said shameful. I wouldn't disagree with that. Certainly shocking. And I think one of the sessions I didn't get a chance to get into this morning, I didn't realise, and it's just as a lay person, you just live your life, but I was involved for about a year on the Disability and Carer Benefits Expert Group around social security becoming part of the devolved landscape. I didn't realise the scale and extent of in-work poverty in Scotland. And it is part of the dots that join up for what we're trying to achieve here, because these statistics play into the same world as the statistics around people that use the benefits system. Maybe a short video clip.
The health and well-being of the people of Scotland faces three major challenges. Our relative poor health compared with the rest of Western Europe significant and persistent inequalities, and unsustainable pressures on our public services. To help meet these challenges, the Scottish Government and COSLA are creating a new national public health body, Public Health Scotland. The organisation will provide strong leadership as Scotland's national agency for improving and protecting health and well-being. We'll work with national and local government, the NHS, existing partnerships and the third sector to better support communities. We'll drive change through the innovative use of data, intelligence, research and evidence. We'll work collaboratively and will provide effective support for healthcare, health improvement and health protection. Public Health Scotland's values have been shaped and agreed by people and organisations from across the country and will define how we work. We'll be accountable to the Scottish Government and COSLA for driving improvements in the nation's health, and for working with local and national partners, as well as the wider system, to make a difference in our communities. Our ambition is for Scotland to be a world leader in improving and protecting health and well-being, and Public Health Scotland will play a key role in making that happen. We'll use our highly trained staff, new ways of working and strong lasting partnerships to develop the best solutions to tackle Scotland's public health challenges, both now and in the future.
So, that was the nutshell version of where we are. So, to speak to some of the comments that were made this morning and have been made this afternoon about what would success look like, it would clearly look at reversing some of those figures that we've just seen. But for me, it lies in these ambitions that we have for Public Health Scotland. How do we then express those as outcomes? How do we take the point that was made that some of this will take 20 years and maybe take more than that? Some of you may remember around the one of the initiatives, there are many of them, around reshaping care for older people a number of years ago. And one of the things I found that was really interesting about that was some of the things that community planning partnerships began with that, the Change Fund, were evaluated by Audit Scotland after 3 years and said none of it worked. 3 years wasn't long enough for some of the things that we needed to change. And I think that that's something that I'm bringing to mind in our ambitions. One of the problems we have when we look at how do we account for our success or otherwise in that is that we look for proxies. We look for outputs that would say if those added up, they would be achieve an outcome. The other challenge that comes with this around the normal ways that you look at the performance of an organisation is to say, so what is Public Health Scotland accountable for? Well, actually, if you go back to the public health priorities, it's what are we all accountable for? So with the shared power comes shared accountability. And I think some of the comments that James made is that that takes you into difficult stuff. Because it is easy to revert back to the norm of your own organisation, and that would be one of the conscious challenges that we'll have in delivering some of these ambitions. There are continuous themes that run through almost any part of public sector reform or organisational reform around leadership. As I said, for 9 years I was the chair of the board of NHS 5, and we tried to do our health improvement role as a partnership through the Fife Health and Wellbeing Alliance, which was part of the community planning partnership world. And we used to get criticised because the board did not have a health improvement committee. We said the board doesn't improve health. It's the partnership that can do something about improving the health and well-being of the population of Fife. And so for me, coming into this role, having something that's about an ambition that's about improving the health and well-being of the people of Scotland is warmly to be welcomed and long overdue. And I think some of you saw from the slides, here are some of the means by which we will do that. I take the comments about whole system, but that's the language that we can use at the moment. Although some people are talking about ecosystems, because the system will change as it changes. I've yet to get my head around that a little bit, but I can still I know what the shorthand for whole system is for me. It means we're all in it. And that's why it's important that we have events like this. And if I can just say a little bit about my role, just because we're talking about Public Health Scotland. I'm the shadow chair because the organisation doesn't exist yet. We will from next April. So at the moment, the first 3 things I had to do in my role, one was to appoint a new chief executive, the first chief executive. She's sitting there, which is great, Angela. Second thing is to sort out the executive team arrangements for Public Health Scotland so that there is, when the organisations come together next year, it will be seamless. Nobody should notice anything. The next stage of that process is about getting a board together, and that will be a big challenge. That's the next thing that I'm facing. Because that's where we get to some of the deliverables about what the organisation looks like. And there's going to be some really interesting challenges for us appointing a board to try and be different, and yet we're covered by rules of governance. So some of that disruptive space, so how do we accommodate that in a board structure? And one of the ways that we're thinking about going about that is taking one of the things that Angela said this morning about a multi-agency space. That part of our governance structure has a space where it's okay to be a bit disruptive. But there are risks to that, risks that it becomes tokenistic, that you have a whole load of people in the room because they all represent difference of what the whole of Public Scotland might look like, or it becomes a board within a board. But that's a governance challenge that we'll just have to manage as we go along. But it means that we do have to import some of that thinking, some of the diversity, because when you look at the 50-50 by 2020 target, and you look at pictures of boards of public bodies, what do you see? People like me. I meant in a good way. But it is the ongoing challenge around diversity. It will be even more challenging if we think about Public Health Scotland is about the lived experience of the people of Scotland. So how do you get that onto a board? When you just bottle everything down. So that's some of the challenges as well. And of course, one of the key things, and it's one of the discussions that we need to have, is this national-local. How do we play a part in local systems as a national body? And sometimes you get the conventional answer to that, well, we need a bum on a seat in every local authority area. That's not an answer, but again, it's something that we're having to wrestle with. But I suppose what I take from all of that is that partnership as a way of working is our default. If we want to achieve the ambitions I had up in those last couple of slides, Public Health Scotland can't do that on its own. So it has to be through local systems. There is an important strand within our work around the leadership in the professional public health space. One of the opportunities that we have coming together as a national body is that it can join up what's going on in all the different health board and council areas. I think we need to very consciously strengthen the links with the historical legacy that Angela described this morning. What I don't want to say is, environmental health's over here. No, it's part of protecting the public. It's in the same space. That's our version of whole system working. We've got to try and identify everybody that can make a contribution. How that works, again, is something that's going to be a big challenge for us. So we're when we talk about day one, day one is the 1st of April next year. So that's part of the journey that Public Health Scotland is going to be going on over the first 3 years of its life. We're quite ahead of the game with respect to this first couple. So perhaps in 36 months' time, we come back to an event like this, and some of the big challenging questions that we've set ourselves, where are we on our ambitions, might well be some of the questions that would come as we go through that journey. That's our contact, and I'm going to hand over to Mark now to brief us on the workshops. Thank you.
Thank you.